So does that sound good? Because I want to make sure, because I figure once we start talking about it, I would kind of forget sort of the setup, because it's a really interesting story. So we're going to cut and roll again. So can you tell me about when your involvement in the Florida case began?
Sure. I was sitting at my trademark office working on trademark problems, and the phone rang, and it was somebody I knew at Amnesty. His name begins with an O, but it may come to me later. And he said, there is a notorious torturer from Paraguay sitting at the Immigration and Naturalization Service area in Brooklyn, and he is alleged to have tortured to death the son of a well-known doctor who was engaged in opposition to the man who had been the dictator of Paraguay for about 30 years. And the alleged torturer or murderer, is scheduled to be deported to Paraguay 2 days from now. This was on a Wednesday or Thursday, and he was supposed to be deported on Saturday. And he said, you've got to keep him here, bring him to trial, because once he goes back to Paraguay, no local judge is going to take the case against him. And I said, and how are we going to do that? And he said, that's your problem, and he hung up. And so I got on the phone and called an emergency meeting of the center. I said, we have this guy here in Brooklyn who tortured to death the 17-year-old son of a known opponent of, blocking on his name now, the dictator, the president of Paraguay. And there was not immediate support for the case, because as somebody I clearly remember said at the meeting, he said, wait a minute, you are going to bring a case on behalf of a Paraguayan woman, the sister of Joelito Filortega, sister named Dolly. And you're going to bring the case against a Paraguayan citizen based on something that happened only in Paraguay without any contact with the United States. And by we, I mean myself and Brenda Copeland, a couple of the other people at the meeting said, yes, that's how we want to bring the case because it fits the parameters of the alien tort claims.
What year was this?
78.
Sorry, could you just as a sentence so we don't have to hear my voice?
Oh, this happened in 1978. And at that time, the Alien Tort Statute had hardly ever been used since it was enacted in 1789. There were a few cases where people tried to use it and didn't succeed. There was an opinion by a Deputy Attorney General of the United States which seemed to support the fact that you could bring a case based on this particular law. But it was just in the shadows. Also, there was, as we discovered when we started doing the research, a case in which the Second Circuit here in New York had ruled against the justiciability of a case brought under the Alien Tort Claims Act. So it wasn't exactly something that we were going to win hands down. But we said, of all the situations that have been brought to our attention since we found this law 10 years ago, this is the one most likely to succeed. So we were faced with this time problem of the impending deportation. And we stayed up all night and wrote the complaint and took it to Judge Nickerson in the Eastern District. Brooklyn is in the Eastern District of New York. And Dickerson used to be the county chairman of Suffolk, I think. And we felt pretty good when we saw that the case was assigned to him on an emergency basis. We filed it the next day because some of us had marched with him before he became a judge in marches against the Vietnam War. And he heard our argument. And this I will never forget. He got off the bench and went to the door leading to his chambers. And when he got to the door, he turned around and he said, "Interesting case." And then we did a lot of work. And we filed briefs, we filed statements by famous international lawyers, like my old professor at Yale Law School, Myers McDougall, who was a former president